Ah, gosh dang it, wouldn't you know it? Here I am playing The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time, and this P-Hat is just. It's just too much. He's getting the better of me. Oh, God, no. What the hell just happened there? Now, the obvious answer, of course, is I was bested. Link died in combat, and a fairy that we had previously stored in a glass bottle leapt into action and revived our hero in his hour of need, yanking his wretched soul back from the maws of oblivion, okay? I have no problem with that, alright? I have no problem with that. My question is, how did the fairy get itself out of this bottle? Huh? As we know, fairies use magic to heal Link's would-be fatal injuries. Of course, magic exists in Hyrule, this is Zelda, but how is the fairy getting out of the bottle in order to heal Link's injuries in the first place? You know what I'm saying? You see, when Link dies, we always see the fairy come out, fly over Link's decaying corpse, and then it zaps him back from the Shadow Realm, okay? But how did the fairy go from being inside Link's bottle to outside of Link's bottle? That is my question here today. Now, the non-critical thinkers in the audience will knee-jerkingly say, well, duh, Stony, they're magical fairies. They have the ability to revive the dead. Surely phasing its way out of a glass bottle is nothing to such a clearly powerful magical creature. That's you. That's what you guys sound like, okay? But me, I don't accept that. Yes, it's true that we've seen instances of fairies ignoring the typical solid barriers. Look at this guy, floating around, clipping in and out of the wall like this was Sonic Adventure, sure. But I believe this is more an example of funky Nintendo 64 physics than an endorsement for the phase theory. Because if the fairies could just magically phase their way in and out of the bottles, that kind of eliminates the necessity of the bottle in the first place, right? Like, why would Link need to keep this fairy in a bottle if the fairy could just leave it at any point? Why would it just hang out in the bottle indefinitely, waiting around for the off chance that Link just buys the farm? If the fairy really was just hanging out, good-naturedly waiting for its chance to save Link's life, why would Link have to capture it? Why would Link have to capture it at all? Huh? And why would he need to keep it in a bottle specifically? At that point, the fairy could just hang out with him like Navi. It could hang out in his hat. It could fly up Link's butthole and hang out up there until he dies if it really wanted to. Who cares? These guys are playing off the goddamn Danny Phantom physics, I guess. So you see, this phase theory just falls to pieces the second you think about it for more than 5 minutes. I mean, look at this captured fairy from Wind Waker. This is one of the few rare examples of common fairies actually having faces and expressions. Look at this guy. Sadly, morosely gazing out of his new crystalline prison, hands on the glass, not phasing through. I think this more than anything else proves that fairies can't simply float through the bottles, and I think it also shows that they are not just simply healing Link out of the kindness of their hearts, right? This is not the face of a fairy who is stoked to be helping you out. Okay? This is the face of a fairy who is resigned to its fate. And look, this video isn't meant to explore the concept of whether or not these fairies are enslaved, right? That's a whole nother video, potentially. Right now, I just want to find out how these little bastards are getting out of these bottles, you know what I'm saying? We can worry about the moral implications of potentially enslaved magical beings on another day. So with the phase theory thoroughly disproven, I really had to start thinking outside the box here, outside the bottle, if you will. This led me to construct what I would end up calling the crush theory. I had this idea that maybe, just maybe, Link would, obviously having these bottles on his person, after receiving the killing blow, maybe he would strategically fall in such a way that he would land on and smash the bottle containing the fairy, thus releasing said fairy and receiving its healing magic. Look right here. Bottle, smash, fairy, okay? Maybe that's why Link always falls the same way in the death sequences of each game. No matter how he dies, he has to make sure he falls like this. He has to make sure that he breaks that fairy out of its bottle, or they're both dead. I mean, let's be real, how much oxygen can those bottles realistically hold? But obviously this theory goes out the window the second you realize that Link still has the bottles after he has been revived by a fairy. They don't vanish from his inventory, they don't break or anything. Look, they just remain there uncrushed. Ironically crushing my crush theory. And I know what you're thinking. I'm in your head, I can hear your thoughts. You're thinking, what if the fairy's magic also heals the bottle once Link's been healed? But I don't think so. There have been various times throughout the Legend of Zelda series where Link has had to fix broken objects, and there's always some crazy shit involved in doing so. Like the absolutely unhinged Crazy Cards game from Oracle of Ages. Do you think Link would subject himself to this bullshit if he could just fix the goddamn sword by sprinkling some fairy dust on it? Absolutely fucking not. This shit is ass. I'll tell you guys what, I'm gonna be honest with you. This was my lowest point. This is the point I started to get stressed. What if I didn't figure this out? What if I had to go to the grave not knowing this information about how the fairies got out of their bottles from the Legend of Zelda? I can't have that happen. I can't have that happen. But this was also the point where I had my biggest breakthrough yet. Okay, and this is where you get the first bottle and Link. Oh my god. You see, my friends, I had been so focused on understanding the magic of these fairies that I never, for 1 second, stopped to consider the magic of the bottles themselves. It's true that they're only referred to as magic bottles in A Link to the Past, but who says that disqualifies any other bottles from any other entries having magical qualities, right? If you've ever even touched this series, there is a good chance that you know how revered of an item bottles are in these games. Look at these beavers, right? They act like giving you this empty bottle is like forsaking a beloved family heirloom. Aonuma himself has commented on the bottles, saying, as to why there are so few, I would simply say it has to be that way because of how powerful they are in the game. Now, is he simply referring to the versatility of these bottles? Is that what he's saying? If you've made it this far into the video, I think you can guess I don't think so. I think the bottles that Link carries are special. I think that they do carry at least some magical properties. There has to be some reason you can only find 4 of these things in the entirety of Ocarina of Time. You telling me Link could only find 4 suitable empty bottles for carrying shit across an entire kingdom? That's all? There's gotta be empty bottles all over this goddamn place. You go to a dairy farm, fucker, and you're telling me that Link can't find any more empty bottles? That just doesn't add up to me. So why does Link only choose these 4 specifically? I mean, let's just think for a second, realistically. If the bottles weren't magic, and it didn't matter, why would Link need them at all? Why would he need the bottles? He could stick a fairy in his bomb bag if he really wanted to. They are roughly the same proportions. But he doesn't. Why? Because these are magic bottles. Magic bottles specifically graded to safely carry magical beings and substances. That is why you can put potions and shit in there too. Still not convinced? Here's Link deflecting Phantom Ganon's energy attacks with bottles again and again and again across multiple games. And here you are trying to tell me that these battles aren't magic. Get the fuck out of here. Now obviously this blows the doors off the entire investigation, right? This is our answer, basically. And it's not even an answer, at least not a satisfactory one. We can't really understand the magic of these bottles. Maybe my crush theory was right. Maybe Link does smash the bottles on impact, but because they're magic bottles, they just reform themselves afterward, before you can even check the item subscreen. Maybe the bottles just open themselves. They're magic. Maybe that cork pops right when they know that its owner has passed on. And maybe the fairies can phase through the bottles, but only when the bottle allows it. Maybe this whole healing shtick is a joint effort between the magic of the bottles and the fairies, working together to miraculously bring this young man back from the brink of death before our very eyes. And honestly, there's a real beauty in that. So I guess that is the theory I'm going to be going with. It has a nice, it's got a nice wrapping things up kind of vibe to it, you know? So I guess the thing that I learned the most from this whole experience, like my biggest takeaway is when you're unsure about how something works in The Legend of Zelda, 99% of the time it's just magic. It's magic. Everything's magic. The bottles are magic. The fairies are magic. Everything's magic. So when you think about it like that, like yeah, this really was just a big dumb waste of time, huh? And here I am left having to sum this video up in some kind of insightful, profound way so you don't walk away from it thinking that you've gained nothing. And there is a lesson. The whole point of this video was teamwork. Yeah, teamwork. Yes, because much like the fairies and their bottles, if we don't come together, if we don't work as a team, Link dies. So, I'm Stony RPG. I'll see you next time.